It's not quite 5:30 yet, so. 10 seconds.
Streaming on YouTube as well.
Should be. All right, well, we're just waiting a few more minutes. We haven't quite reached a quorum yet, so.
Go down to live stream.
Live stream. Gotcha.
Nope, you are great.
Okay, great. So it looks like we are recording for those that may be watching this online or watching it later. We're just waiting a few minutes. We need to reach a quorum and we're just waiting for a few members to attend. So we'll jump back in when they get on.
Oh, would you like to mute us?
Hello.
Hey, Lester, we can't hear you. Thanks for
Yep, I
joining.
can hear you.
You can?
Yep. So, Lester, we're gonna go ahead and get started now that you're here, okay?
All right, great.
All right, thanks. All right, I'm just calling this Human Services Commission meeting. Right now, all individuals present in person to provide public comment, please sign up using the sign-up sheet located at the table near the entrance. The time is now 5:32 on Thursday, November 6th, 2025. So just wanted to make a quick announcement. We do have four members present tonight, so we do have enough to reach quorum. I will continue with this meeting. We only have 6 members on the council or the commission right now. We did have 1 member step down. So if anybody is listening to this online or sees this on YouTube later, watches it, the stream, we will be opening up applications or you can reach out to the city of Lacey, however best fits you. So please look for that application real soon. So we're gonna do a roll call real quick to see for those who are in attendance. Present is Brandon Stevens, I'm the chair. Angelina Goldwell.
Present.
Our vice chair, Nancy Dila.
Present.
And we do have Lester Dixon.
Present.
Not present right now is Dalia Martinez. We do think she may pop in. Tiffany Walker is excused, and our youth council rep, we will be talking a little bit about that here on our agenda, but she won't be able to make it tonight. So first, let's start with we have a hand up.
Our own hand.
It's ours. Okay. Well, let me start with the land acknowledgement. We, the city of Lacey, are on ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors of their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call to attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that the community members all read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854. Which brings us to item number 4 on our agenda, the approval of agenda, previous meeting minutes, and consent items. We're gonna approve the agenda and also the previous meeting minutes from July 10th, 2025. I move the commission approve those as published in today's agenda. and the minutes of July 10th.
Second.
I do need someone to motion that.
Oh, didn't you just say?
I can motion it.
You
I
did,
can do that.
Yes,
and you did
can.
in fact, do it.
And we have a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
I.
Aye.
Okay, I hear you, Lester. All those opposed? Do we have any discussion on that? No?
Yeah, typically that would come before you call the vote.
Okay.
But you do have a motion that has carried.
This motion is approved. We're still getting our bearings. It's been a couple months since we've been here. So that's great. It doesn't look like anybody's pre-registered for public comments. Item number 5, and there were no written public comments as well. So that takes us on to our business items. Michelle, do you want to take it from here?
Sure, I can take it. So item number A, 6A, Jennifer Zhang, who is our new Lacey Youth Council representative. She was not able to be here today because she has a very important event at school. So we will do our welcoming to her at our next meeting. So I'm looking forward to that. We did a brief orientation about the commission and she's had all her public meeting rules and everything training. So we're super happy to have her. The next item is the Human Services Grant Program update, so I can go ahead and start on that if I can hit the clicker. Thank you. See that finding my Human Services.
Michelle, you will want to share your screen first. We're all out of practice a little bit, so if you wanna, Paul, if you could hit escape on the keyboard in front of you. The other keyboard in front of you.
Glad I'm not the only one
Perfect,
here.
okay, so I'm gonna share
Shannon, where
screen.
would we be without you?
Wait a little bit. There we go, perfect. Okay. Now we do the full screen here. And I have to go back. Can you hit me back? Screen, sir, just the arrow, there you go, go back. Back there, okay. Thank you, Paul, for your help. Great, thank you. So this is just an update. It's been a while since we met, so you all in your packet had a report that talked about kind of where we are at with our grant program. This is our, we're entering into, we had 2024 completed, and then we are entering into our 2025 cycle. So you can see here we have this is a couple pictures we have of some of our 2024 program participants that we funded. We have a thank you letter from Grub, which is the Garden Raised Bounty nonprofit. They did receive $6,000 and they're super happy with the help that the city of Lacey gave them. So they were able to provide some gardens for low-income people in the neighborhoods. And then we also have a picture from Interfaith Works here, another one of our recipients who does work with the homeless at the Sergio's Center over on Martin Way. So we've spent almost 100% of our funds. I'm happy to report that 96%. Pretty much, I just have one more invoice to pay and we'll be 100% spent on that. The pictures, you know, above are just folks that are working in our programs, Boys and Girls Club and the Garden Raised Bounty. You can see some pictures that we've received from our participants. One of the things that we've been doing, the city of Lacey's been doing is we've been featuring every week or so a story about our program in our Lacey Weekly newsletter. So I don't know if you guys have signed up, but we have this newsletter where you can sign up through Constant Contact and get updates. You can find out everything that's happening with the city, hear from the city manager, city council. So this here is an article where we've talked about the program, and it features work through Habitat for Humanity, South Puget Sound, where they helped an individual with some home repairs. And the Habitat staff is very grateful to the city of Lacey for helping with these programs. It really does help a lot of critical repairs for low income residents in Lacey who wouldn't be able to make these repairs without the grant. So trying to
it's a
highlight that.
safety thing, looking at those pictures.
Yes, if you look at the stairs, little things like this can go a long way
Yeah.
in terms of improving the quality of life for our residents.
So 2024, almost 100% spent. 2025, we're in the process of rolling out those contracts. These are the logos of the different folks that we've funded for 2025. A lot of the same folks did apply again for the 2025 funds. We have a couple new agencies, Cielo, which is a Latino serving organization. We have All Kids Win is a new nonprofit with us this year. Senior Services of South Sound, longtime Lacey partner, didn't get funded through the round one, but they're funded through 2025. So yeah, a lot of returning agencies as well as a few new ones. So that's kind of the summary of 2024 and 2025, what's happening there. And then I wanted to jump into the needs assessment update. If you have any questions regarding the 2024 or 2025 funds, please let me know. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but it is really neat to see that all those funds were appropriated and used, and I look forward to getting an update for as we go through 2025 periodically, and especially now since we know how desperately these are needed right now. It's like especially with housing and food.
I wanted to highlight as well, the stories from the Lacey Weekly are actually in your packet. Does Lester have
There's
a
a
comment?
hand raised, it's Tiffany
Oh,
actually.
Hi, Tiffany.
See, we let her in.
Tiffany's in as a panelist if they can raise their hand. Oh, nope, I guess I stand corrected.
See, now we're all on the same.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Hello, Tiffany, can you hear us?
I can, thank you. I was listening. I just wanted to see if I could get promoted to a panelist. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yes, great. It looks like Tiffany Walker, one of our other commission members, has joined us now. So great. Thank you, Tiffany.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Tiffany. You're
Sorry, I was
promoted.
just having, I'm sorry, I had an issue finding the link.
You are promoted.
Only one, don't worry.
So I was just refreshing what's in the packet. In your staff report also includes a snippet of all the stories that we've done, of the success stories for the 2024 grantees. So you can go back and review those and then sign up for the Lacey Weekly. It's a great way to keep in touch with everything that's happening. And you'll continue to see those stories popping up periodically about what's happening with the grant program. So I will jump into our needs assessment update. We started this process back in 2024. We talked about the community participation plan, how we're going to engage people and who we're going to engage. And we had great input on that from the community as well. You all gave us a lot of feedback. We met with the Commission on Equity as well, and they gave us great contacts in the community. We had an online survey, which was completed in 2024. We started doing our focus groups according to our plan. So we've done 3 so far. And in your packet, you have all the kind of reports from our survey. You've got the Korean and the English. You also have the notes from the focus groups, so you could see. And then all the comments. So everything that anybody typed in a narrative, we also included that because I think it's important for people to see. We took the time to ask their opinions. Their opinions are reflected in documents the city's publishing, and that will be part of our final report as well. So, and then focus groups, we're going to continue those, hopefully wrapping those up first quarter 2026. Can't believe I'm even saying it's 2026 already. But the idea is to finish the literature review. There's a lot of existing community surveys that have gone on. There's a lot of agencies that have done needs assessments like intercity transit and the schools. And so utilizing existing plans and incorporating that into our plan. And then have that presented to you all in the spring. And then before we go to this process again, you've got your needs assessment. You can look at your priorities and then also bring that to council before we go through this process for the 3rd time, if you can believe it.
We'll be experts.
So to summarize, what we're doing is we're doing this needs assessment so we can really do a strategic plan for the city for human services so that we can prioritize. There's so much need out there and there's so many people that need this funding. How do we prioritize where the funding's gonna go? Part of the way we do that is we ask people in the community and different constituent stakeholder groups what their priorities are and what they're seeing as a need. So we did this online survey. We had 159 participants.
Wow.
And we did English and Korean and Spanish. We didn't have Spanish responses, but we did have Korean. The survey was open for 3 weeks. We had 8 questions about community needs, 3 questions about household needs, and then all of the narrative responses are in your agenda packet as well. So the key things from this needs assessment so far, what we've heard through the survey and through the focus groups, the key community barriers, money, transportation, childcare, and language. The key community needs, healthcare, housing, financial assistance, employment, and training. Interesting that the Korean responses, they weighed clothing and food higher than housing, where the English responses, housing was higher. And then the community needs, which were weighted childcare, domestic violence services, veteran services, and older adults. On the household side, the key needs were preventative and emergency healthcare, older adult services, and low and no cost legal. And then we went through the narrative responses and we took kind of the responses, we counted how many people responded to different areas. And homelessness, transportation, healthcare, youth, seniors, and affordable housing. And I was kind of surprised at how high up transportation was in that. There was a lot of narrative comments about transportation, our community, and walkable, bikeable, accessible improvements that individuals would like to see. So we've kind of highlighted transportation and senior services because that kind of ties in also to our CDBG money that we're going to be talking about. So things that we heard about transportation,
Yeah.
there's a lack of safe sidewalks, safe biking lanes, the city is inaccessible. And with the senior services, the parking at the Lacey Senior Center needs to be expanded. We need to double the size of the senior center.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
On Pacific? Okay,
It's on the lake there,
yeah,
There's a
where's the
community
Olympia
center.
one?
downtown.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's the blue building down there.
So there's a community center and a senior center all kind of in Lacey. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been to the senior center, you know that it is bursting at the seams. There's a lot of activity going on. So here's our CDBG. We're gonna likely recommend that those dollars go to expand the parking lot at the senior center and work on sidewalk improvements in Huntermore Park, which falls into our low moderate neighborhoods. And other sidewalk improvements that would fall under the low mod neighborhood improvement area. So that's kind of the summary of the actual survey that we did, and then including the narrative responses. And then the focus groups, we had a lot of great feedback. I love doing focus groups. I love to meet people where they're at and hear their feedback. Kind of the key takeaways from that, folks had reiterated in a couple different groups that we need to there's really hard to find information. They would like to see better communication on what services we have and where to find them. Also for youth, they mentioned they'd like to see us out in the schools and talking about services and where they can access them. Community feedback is important, like the Veterans Hub and things like that. They came out of the community needs and people speaking to the leadership about what we need. There's not enough mental health and substance abuse emergency services. I heard about long wait times. There's a lot of resources for homeless vets, but not necessarily a lot for non-homeless vets. And that's a struggle for people in the community that are serving veterans. More places for youth to go. We don't have a DV, domestic violence type services right here in Lacey. Or like a women's clinic, and then youth want to have more knowledge about the HIPAA rights for students in the community. Another summary finding is that, again, this is just kind of the summary findings overall, reiterating between the two where the overlap is. Mental health, emergency care, the communications about where people can find services. More places for youth to go, access to childcare should be expanded. We don't have domestic violence services, so that's kind of where we ask the question, where are we missing things? Senior services and Veterans Hub are popular. People have utilized them and have had good experiences. And then youth and older adult programs and spaces should be expanded. So that's kind of the summary of where we're at. So next quarter is gonna be more focus groups here at City Hall, probably getting people in from different specific areas that we haven't tapped into, like first responders, the health community, the schools, people working in the nonprofit sector. So some of you all will probably get an invite on that.
Is this, focus group, are they simply concerned with the overall services in the city of Lacey or what the city of Lacey provides?
It's specific to human services, but human services also includes healthcare and accessibility and making sure that people with disabilities have access to services.
It's interesting, that they mentioned getting the information to the schools.
Because I did a focus group directly with youth.
Okay.
So we have a youth council here and I met with them and I got the feedback directly from the youth about.
They're like, we just don't know about some of these things.
Right, we would like to have more information shared with us at the school district about what's available.
Some sort of liaison that's like
Yeah.
providing that.
I'm just gonna add to what Michelle was saying here of, we're gathering all of this information from a broad group of stakeholders in the community with the idea of helping us understand those gaps so that we can tailor our programs like the Human Services program. And Michelle's got the plan of the activity out here, but part of that is us being able to get the documentation and information back together to get to you all to make recommendations for potentially tailoring the program
Yeah.
to meet some of those.
Totally am,
Yeah.
because, that was one of our big dilemmas was, when you say what's specifically needed, we had a very specific, the wind's been out tonight. We had a very specific rubric that we had to go by, but it's like kind of difficult to, go past some of the really essential needs, even though we felt like those were super needed. And I feel like 160 responses is that, I feel like that's pretty good. I know it's a large city, but it's at least gives you something to go off of.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good information and, coupling that too with the focus groups, right, that Michelle's putting together. We're gonna hear from, probably another 160 additional stakeholders.
Thank you.
And in your packet includes the focus group questions, try to ask the same questions to the different groups.
And they were super thorough responses too. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yes.
I'm curious if, as all of this data is being collated and collaborated, and I'm so glad to hear about all of these conversations that are happening, is part of the hope of the city is to, within these specific focus groups, or with the feedback that we're receiving, to look for, to also look for points of collaboration. Because what I'm curious about is, I hear on the one hand, the senior service center needs to be expanded, and that the youth need a place to be, and in my speculative experience, because I don't know the Lacey Senior Center events calendar, but I would guess that the evenings are not as busy as during the day. When I worked with older folks, there was a lot of like, it gets dark at 4, I'm not driving to anything after 4, which is reasonable, right? We all know what that's like. But it makes me wonder, what are the possibilities for multi-use of the assets we already have?
I think that's a really good point, and hopefully those dialogues will be generated throughout this conversation. So as we kind of come up with a report and include all the comments, and we're able to kind of prioritize, the idea is to help prioritize so that we can maybe narrow down some of our priorities and help with that difficult decision about how we prioritize our funding, that will generate the conversation between the different agencies on when folks say we need to have a teen center or we need to have more activities for youth, where could that be? Where are those intersections? So I think that's really
At
good.
the senior center.
Well, there is a community center there, is there not?
There's a community center, and I think again, it has its own programming that
Mhm.
goes sometimes, during the day, sometimes during the evening, but I think Michelle pretty much summarized it really well of, yeah, we want to share, we want to collaborate where it makes sense, and this is a first step for understanding
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the next steps are to keep sharing stories about our successes and what's working and doing what we're doing well. What we're hearing from the community, doing those site visits, going out and talking to people. Kind of monitoring our program, so I'll make appointments with the different agencies and go out and take pictures and talk to them and interview people. And share more feedback with you all in the council about what's going on out there and where the money's being spent and how it's being utilized. And then continue working on our focus groups and write the draft plan with the idea of bringing that to you all in April, so that we can have that recommendation before we start the open application process. I also like to look at again the program materials, the policy and the score sheets, because I know there's challenges with the way we have it's a really hard decision-making process, so I'm constantly looking for ways to improve and make things more user-friendly so that folks don't have as much of a challenge with that. So we'll be bringing back recommendations for possibly being able to tweak the program materials, the policy, and the rubric or the score sheet in early next year. 2026. Oops, that's what happens when I bring my laptop. I wasn't gonna bring it because I always click this instead of this. Anything else you wanted to talk about the grant program? The Human Services Grant Program update?
I think you all are doing amazing work as always. I really appreciate how intentional and thoughtful all of this work is in order to really capture all of those folks who have opinions and have feelings and want to express their needs to us. So I'm so glad that you all are working on that. I think as far as the rubrics and stuff go, when we come back to review that, part of the discussion that I would love to see is I think we were all a little surprised in our last go around about how many of the requests were staff based. We had based a lot of our rubrics and thinking on capital improvements and direct service. And so I think perhaps some guidance, advice from the city on best practices, ways to ways to engage that aspect of the funding, because I imagine with everything that's going on in the world, that'll probably come up again in our next funding cycle.
Yeah, those are super thoughtful response, Angelina, and it's true because without those people that provide those services and work them, then they don't exist. So I was a little bit surprised at that myself too, because we're all new at this. And then definitely commendable that the city of Lacey really takes into consideration the most vulnerable stakeholders' opinions to come up with the thoughtful layout and all this data and statistics to be able to make educated responses to it. It's very commendable that you guys do all that work, so. That will take us to our next non-action item. And that's gonna be our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging regional report. Shannon and Michelle, are we there?
I think we actually have a little bit more on the block grant, so.
Oh, I thought we made it through that.
Item C, we had a sneak peek, but now we'll do a little bit more discussion and just give you a little bit more information on where
It's
we're at.
raining. Yes, it's raining. Oh my gosh.
I do remember to share.
So back up, then we're still under our CDBG update.
Yes, so
Okay.
I have a brief presentation on this, and again, you have a staff report in your packet on the CDBG, Community Development Block Grant. We did receive approval of our consolidated plan and our action plan. And we
Very
have a
good.
signed grant agreement, and we have submitted that to HUD and HUD is closed, so I'll keep you informed as to when they sign that, but they have a very nice out of office thing right now.
Oh, I bet.
And then we are evaluating our capital projects, potential capital projects to spend that 343, 393 that we have been allocated directly from HUD now. So again, this is our funding matrix. Why we decided upon to start out with these capital projects is to get them out quicker and not have as much of a lead time in terms of getting the funding spent. And then having some of those dollars go to administration. We can spend up to 20%, but we're looking at probably spending half that for admin. So the next, we're evaluating our capital projects. We're setting up our administrative kind of backbone of how that's gonna look and what that's gonna entail. And then we will report back to you all on any potential projects that we come up with.
So Michelle, Joe, can you go back to that slide too? I think just one more thing to highlight about, this group already, we've talked about the reasons why we think in the early stages, we should focus on, capital projects. I think another thing that, we didn't anticipate when we had discussed this earlier was what was happening, what was going to happen at the federal government level. And so just recognizing too that, taking a look at the next couple of years of focusing on projects that are city-based instead of having grants that go out to sub-recipients that could have, implications, say if funding is curtailed or needs to be repaid or something along those lines that we don't know yet at this point, of keeping it, within the city also makes a lot of sense at this point. And that's not something that we obviously had information or knowledge of when we reviewed that. But again, another point of, why, kind of in the short term, it makes a lot of sense to look at focus on city projects.
Nancy?
So in the comments that you get from HUD, is there any projected lapse of time after the government reopens before they'll be back operational? Like if we go back next Monday, will it take a couple weeks to begin to look at this kind of stuff?
So I imagine there's gonna be a catch-up period.
Yeah.
So they're getting, requests and emails and grant agreements and things like that they can't respond to. So they're not if you're not working, that work is kind of piling up. But they have told us that we can still draw down, existing funds if we had existing expenditures, but we don't have that yet.
Yeah. So will any of our timeframes change based on that then?
I don't think so.
That's another advantage for being managed by the city is that we can control the things that are not
Exactly.
controllable with other organizations.
With the potential projects that we'll be looking at for this, the city will bring those recommendations to us to discuss essentially.
Yes.
And we had kind of a preliminary thought on it, didn't we?
Yeah, so we
Yeah, I thought
talked
so.
briefly about,
Oh,
and we
there.
reviewed just this brief list of what could be potential projects, type of things that we could fund. And you'll see that the senior center's number 3, and then ADA sidewalk
Yeah.
improvements and infrastructure improvements like at the parks. Those are all included in there.
That's great.
Some of the things that were clearly defined in the responses too, and
Right. So we're likely making 2 recommendations, the Lacey Senior Parking Lot expansion and then the Huntermer Park sidewalk improvements, probably as a contingency, and then other sidewalk improvements in neighborhoods where they would be low to moderate income neighborhoods.
So to the question that you just asked, Chair, we're evaluating these right now to see kind of what the possibility, what the costs are, what does it look like? And we will return back to this group to go over that information and get a recommendation before taking it to the city council.
I may add, many years ago, there was a focus group on needed, specifically like two bike lanes and sidewalks that were already like areas that were of high concern in the city of Lacey. Maybe we could revisit some of those and see which ones had been done and which ones still needed to be. That may help us, figure out possibly if there's something that we can help with those. I remember you know, specifically some by Nisqually Middle School that were really needed, and mostly where kids were walking is where the community felt that we needed to focus on with those.
So, Chair, a great point. I think what you're likely referencing, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is the work that we did on the pedestrian and bike plan.
I was on it.
Yep, okay,
I
great.
just couldn't remember the name.
And we can send that out to this group. It is a study that we did a couple of years ago and put
Yeah.
together kind of where we're missing infrastructure. And it's a great tool. And obviously, you know, what we're trying to look at when we're looking at projects and evaluating it are matching up with some of the things that our public works team may be doing in the next couple of years.
Right, they may have already have some plans, so.
Yep, and that's why, you know, looking at some of those sidewalks in some locations that we have projects potentially in the next few years makes a lot of sense. But I think, you know, taking a look and getting a good sense of the bike pedestrian plan for more information of, you know, what could be possibilities is absolutely a great tool. We'll send it out to y'all.
So the next steps are to evaluate the eligibility, so to make sure that our projects, if they don't fall in the area benefit, how will we certify? Because all the dollars have to be spent serving majority low to moderate income folks. That's the purpose of the funding source, so if we don't have it fall under the area benefit within the maps, then we need to figure out how we're gonna certify that the folks, the majority, 51% or more, are low to moderate income.
And that's why I think that that study may be helpful because, you know, it draws out specific areas already. And then you can take from your income maps and your demographics, and maybe we can
Look at them.
and see if they match up at all.
Makes sense. So we'll review our project timelines to see how that works with CDBG, get the approval from HUD before we enter any activities. Once we get approval, then we would start entering those activities into the system so that we can start drawing funds. We'll have to do environmental reviews for anything that we do. That's kind of the next steps for that. Any questions about CDBG?
Yeah, what is it?
Community
Figure it
Development
out.
Block Grant.
Just,
I think that the direction that that you all are exploring, particularly with yeah, all of the sidewalk updates and stuff, that seems like a really positive use of these funds that whenever they become available to us. Because yeah, you know, before I lived here, I lived in a very walkable part of Los Angeles and then a very walkable part of New York. And it has always surprised me that an area that, granted, while it's a big town, geographically, it's not big enough, like, it's not big enough to warrant how, like, unwalkable it is. And so, you know, the idea that, which would also have long-term environmental positive impact if it was able to, yeah, folks could go where they were. I know when I was working in the nonprofit sector, the number of low-income folks who affording a car is completely inaccessible, you know, and so the more options we can give people to get where they need to go, the better, I think, for all of us in the long term and the short term.
I do know that with the rapid growth of this city, the city has been taking heavily into consideration like how to make things more accessible to people, and, you know, looking at making areas for people to live in that they can have services around that are walkable. You know, those are many years out, obviously, because it takes a long time, but yeah, if it is a much more suburban area, right, where everybody tends to rely on cars here, even though we do have a great public transportation system that's free, it's like, oh, it takes so long to get from point A to point B. If we had more safe walking distance stuff, that would be great.
You know, one thing to add to what you're all saying too is, you know, when we look at our plans, we are a older community as well as a newer community. And the fact that, we incorporated in the sixties, we had some infrastructure that's now also dated. And so recognizing that there's infrastructure out there, like sidewalks, that don't meet ADA compliance, and it also has, significant issues, whether it's got cracks or it's it's not wide enough, and et cetera. And so, recognizing we're also trying to evaluate, repairing some of the existing infrastructure so that it's usable for everyone in the community.
Tiffany or Lester, did you have any input? No.
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think it's great that we want to expand the senior center parking lot. And I love that we are also looking for ways to expand ways for folks to get to the senior center without having to rely on their cars. So.
That concludes my presentation, Chair.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we will move on to our next non-action item now, on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, our DEIB regional marketing report, our meeting report, excuse me, Shannon and Michelle.
Well, good evening officially, Chair and Vice Chair and Commissioners. We do want to report out on, the activities we had with the regional meeting that occurred last month. And, fortunately, this room is much warmer than
Yes.
the room we were in. I apologize again for anybody who was there. It was probably 50 degrees in that room and very, very cold. So, Michelle, if you could advance.
Kept
to the
us
next
awake.
slide. So this was back in September 22. The photo again does not show how cold it was, but it was very cold. We had a great gathering of representatives from a lot of different jurisdictions. If you go to the next slide, you can see we had representatives from our Commission on Equity here at the city. We also had a lot of you all there, which was really fantastic. We had a representative from Tumwater, a couple representatives from the city staff side, and I'm really excited to announce that since we've had this meeting, they actually approved the formation of their own equity commission. And so they will likely be doing a big push for, folks who are interested to apply to be a part of that board, and hopefully we'll have another good group of folks to join us for our next meeting. So look out for that and pass that information on. We also had a representative from the city of Olympia from the staff provide some information on kind of what they were doing. And we had a couple of representatives from Thurston County on their racial social justice board come and provide some information. And then a couple of community members joined the conversations as well. And the great thing about the meeting was we were able to get an update on kind of where everybody was at, what they're focused on, what they're doing. And then we were able to break off into a small group discussion to kind of talk about what are some of the ways that we can work together in the future? What does that look like? And, what are some of the needs, gaps, et cetera, that, the groups have or we have collectively? So as part of this discussion, we really focused on 4 questions. And if I can get the next slide, it was about, what are our common goals? What are the challenges? What are within those parameters, what are some opportunities for collaborations and partnerships and initiatives? How can we better share our information, our insights, best practices? And then, really kind of thinking about actionable items. What are some steps we can take in the short term that would meet, some of the objectives that we identified with the above? And so with that, I'll turn it over to Michelle, and Michelle will go over some of the themes.
So we had, and again, in your packet, you have all the notes from the meeting, which is all the tables and all the comments and everything that people said. So in attachment 1, it talks about the overarching themes. And so they recommended for collaboration that we hold joint meetings quarterly or twice a year. So going to different jurisdictions and sharing the hosting duties. So our next meeting will probably be first quarter 2026, I think, maybe February-ish. Focus on specific topics that we could yield action items. So before we meet, I know we wanted to have the United Way present on the Alice data, but there was something that came up, so we'll probably have that presentation at our next meeting. Hold regular meetings with the different advisory board chairs. Continue our summit. We had a summit, I believe in 2020, was it 2025? We had our first summit. So a regional summit, inviting people from the community to come as well, and then continue to share our best practices and challenges that we have. So in terms of direction, help define and educate what DEIB is. Work on joint projects when we have a chance. And then understand, we're facing increasing challenges. So that was a theme that came out through the discussion, is that there's different maybe challenges or pushback on the DEIB concepts. Another theme was to hold joint engagement outreach activities, so we go to different events, but maybe sharing a table, so one board or commission doesn't have to try to staff the whole thing, we could take sections or chunks of the day. So some examples were the farmer's market, college events, the night market at Lacey. There's a South Sound BIPOC organization that we could tap into. Create an informal newsletter to highlight the work that's being done. Hold more regional events, involve and support our youth into the work. Expand mentorship for community members. A lot of the discussions I was hearing were about people who are facing challenges in the work. It's really difficult work to do, and it's very challenging. And so to have that mentorship component, to work with others who work in the field, who've had a lot of experience, that can help people be successful, whether they're an advisory board member or a staff member. When you come up with challenges and you have somebody you can relate to and say, hey, this is what I'm facing, how did you handle this? Or have you come across this in your work? And then hiring and trusted community members in these different groups that we don't necessarily have that direct access, but if there's a leader in that community who is trusted and can provide messaging from the different government bodies, and then get folks to be more engaged with City Hall in different ways. Sometimes if you have someone in your community that you know and you trust, and they say, oh, you should really participate in that outreach meeting, or, you should go and give them feedback on what they want for this new park they're developing. And people tend to, they have trust, they have trust in the community members to actually go and have their voices heard. So yeah, it was a great meeting, and besides being cold, I think it was a really great opportunity to meet other people in the community that
I
we
really
never met
enjoyed the
before.
people I was with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the
it was
tables,
nice.
people, we tried to mix it up too, so it wasn't all just commissioners in one and then equity in another.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really sad I had to miss that, honestly.
we missed you.
I know, I was,
Next time, we're gonna have another one.
yeah.
Well, I guess that's one of the questions for the group of, we're gonna have another one. So we brought this information forward to our Commission on Equity, and they were really supportive of the idea of trying to meet at least quarterly. And so I guess one of the questions we have for you all as a group is, would you be interested in continuing to be a part of that? And does a quarterly sound like the right frequency? Or I know biannually was put up, triannually, so wanted to get some feedback from y'all on that.
Well, I wouldn't want to overstep for sure. I do think that our groups do go hand in hand. So it's certainly, something that would be helpful for us as well as them, I think, because it would help us shape um, our, our ability to give out funds appropriately too. So, as far as how often, every quarter does sound pretty doable. That's just once every 4 months,
3.
3 months,
Right.
3 months.
Mhm.
So there's additional one meeting, like pretty similar to this one, I would assume, and maybe even,
In place of,
yeah,
I think there are times of the year that it works and times that it
right. Like if
doesn't.
it was in the summer, it would be hard to replace it, but if it was now, as we're, nearing the end of one fiscal year, then that might be easier.
No, I agree. I think, yes, continued involvement and quarterly sounds good to me. I think the world moves too quickly to do, less than that.
Yeah,
I think especially because this is, these sort of collaborative gatherings are relatively new. In my experience of when pulling groups together is it may consistency is so crucial, but also front loading, gathering, so starting quarterly and then, you know, as time goes on, maybe we, you know, that timeline gets longer, but I think quarterly really, sets us up well for developing those connections and touch points with each other. And I think it also keeps folks interested, like, not interested, but it's, you know, I wanna know what happened at the City of Olympia Equity Commission 2 months ago. Maybe more than I wanna know what happened 6 months ago. Do you know what I mean? Especially in terms of thinking forward, for collaborative opportunities. So yeah,
And certainly I'm not opposed to holding a separate meeting at all. If that's possible, you know, I know you guys have to get it all set up and, you know, but if it works out, I'd be happy to do it, yeah.
I think one of the concepts we've had to, we've kind of, are looking at is maybe having the different jurisdictions hosted on their meeting day. So maybe it's not always a new one, maybe sometimes it is your regular
Right,
scheduled
right.
meeting, so that way there is kind of a balance, so maybe throughout the year. You know, one of your human service meetings is used as a regional meeting, and then we join, you know, Olympia during their regularly scheduled meeting.
Now, if I might add, coming from this commissioner, I heard two who are in favor of a quarterly meeting. So am I. I think 6 months is just a long period of time to share or to gather information. So I'm certainly in favor of meeting with other groups, finding out what they're doing and engaging with them as well. So a quarterly meeting sounds reasonable and doable for me.
It would just be helpful for us to stay up to date, I think. I know they meet so they could, you know, keep us up to date. That'd be great.
I'm curious for these quarterly meetings, one of the things that we discussed that came up at the regional meeting was that City of Lacey is really leading the charge on live streaming our meetings and recording them in that way. And I'm wondering, and it doesn't necessarily have to have an answer for tonight, obviously, but what doing regional work, do we also have to make sure that all of these meetings are public? Do they have to be recorded? Like what, yeah, are there any hoops that we need to jump through to make sure that we're doing this all the right way?
The answer is yes. So when we're hosting our meeting or a meeting's being hosted by another board, we would have to follow everything per the Open Public Meetings Act. So we would certainly want to make sure that we're meeting those criteria. As far as recording, that's kind of at the discretion of the jurisdictions currently of whether or not they choose to record. And it's actually a great conversation. I think that could be a topic of one of these future meetings, because I think you would hear, you know, from Olympia that they intentionally don't record their meetings for, you know, reasons that they, you know, think that some of the conversations are best for kind of an in-person group. And I don't want to speak for them. They can absolutely tell you a little bit more. Whereas, you know, obviously we've come from the standpoint of saying like, we want to increase accessibility and, you know, let people watch these meetings when they can. So it could be a great conversation to talk about, you know, why do you do this? What are some of the challenges? Those are the types of things that these meetings could be focused on.
Did
Yeah.
the meeting that we had, the regional meeting, did it meet the requirement of the act?
Yes.
Okay. I was oblivious to it, so.
Yep. It was a Commission on Equity meeting.
Yeah, because I would also wonder based on our, you know, the rules around like the three, you know, the three of us couldn't go out for coffee after this because there'd be too many of us and we might accidentally discuss business, you know, and I would wonder about as we continue to move into collaborative work, because there is so much overlap between what all these commissions do, that's why we want to collaborate in the first place. What's the, like, you know, let's say the hypothetical, maybe there's 3 people from 3 different commissions who are all staffing an outreach activity, and when there's downtime, they are, you know, chit-chatting.
Well, I would say just to jump in, that 3 is the perfect number to go out for coffee. Just to clarify,
Okay.
4 is the number where we would have to do some posting and noticing of the meetings and
Mhm.
have to fit under the OPMA. So yes, 3 members of this group could say, you know, I'd love to go grab coffee with 3 members of the Commission on Equity and just kind of talk about what's going on.
Awesome.
But yeah, absolutely, our intention is that we would make sure that we would be following obviously all the rules of the OPMA.
So was was the regional meeting to help kind of sculpt the Lacey Commission's mission? Is that what I'm getting?
That's a good question. So this actually came out of the first Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Belonging Summit that Michelle mentioned. So this happened last spring. And there was a panel within the larger discussion of government. And so one of the action items from that was, let's get all of the groups together. Like, it was great to hear at the summit, kind of an overview of what's going on, but can we get everybody together and get the advisory board members to know about each other and to know what they're doing? And so we were accomplishing that goal that was set out by the summit. And, you know, I think through that meeting, what we've heard is that there is some benefit to, you know, meeting frequently and sharing some ideas and best practices. Maybe even collaborating when it makes sense to collaborate. And one of the things the Commission on Equity made a point of when we brought this up to them was, you know, we've got this really great equity map. Can we show this tool and can we, you know, see if there's any possibilities for partnerships for expansion beyond just Lacey? So those are the types of things that, you know, could be beneficial conversations with cross groups.
How long has that commission been in place?
2021.
Discussion on our DEIB regional meeting?
I'm excited that people want to meet quarterly.
I know, yeah, I know I just really feel like our mission is so closely tied to theirs. It would be super helpful for us personally. Tiffany or Lester, anything from you guys online?
No,
I don't have anything to add. I had a great time attending last month's meeting. I would like to say that I would like to see us being a little bit more involved. We do a lot of discussions. And I know the Equity Commission does a little bit more hands-on. And I was just wondering how the Human Services Commission could kind of do that as well.
Well, I think that's actually an interesting question because it looks like we're looking at like how we would cross collaborate, but we're not really looking at how we would do some of the things that commission's doing with the public.
There's a whole
Yeah.
bunch of focus groups coming up. If you guys want to participate in the focus
Oh, for
groups.
sure. Yeah, of course. for
Because
sure.
I
That's
have-
kind of why I'm asking.
Yeah, I would love to have people come and just help
talked about
us
that.
manage, because there's gonna be probably a whole bunch the next quarter. So I can, once I get the dates and times and places, I can share that with you guys.
That would be
And you could determine, you know, we'll make sure not 4 of you is at one.
But that would be really cool, and just to be more involved, because that is what Human Services is about. We're the Human Services Commission,
Right.
and I feel like that's a very important piece to being able to provide that support and guidance to the city of Lacey.
You know, I was just gonna add that I think that's a wonderful idea, and that's absolutely what the Commission on Equity has done too with
Yeah.
the focus groups that they've been hosting. And they also, when they started, you know, one of them was with like the senior center as an example, and we had 3 representatives from the commission there to help answer the questions and, you know, take notes and kind of summarize what they heard.
Yeah, I appreciate that because as someone who has never served on a commission, I don't have really know what the expectations are of beyond our meetings exactly, and how we can get more engaged in the community, and, you know, help you guys essentially facilitate message spreading and also get feedback from the community being out there rather than just, you know, sitting here and talking about it. So that's a great point, Tiffany.
So as soon as I have the list and dates set up, I'll start sending them out.
Yeah, and maybe like if you could on for the next meeting, maybe put something on there where we can brainstorm about potential opportunities for 2026 for us to do other things.
Dates and events.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Okay, heard.
And like Michelle was saying, we're gonna have so many focus groups at the beginning of first quarter of 2026. So having a lot of you all being interested is great news to us.
So if maybe, sorry, maybe if you could, in December, like potentially, if there's events in 2026 that you think we might be able to attend, outside of the focus groups also, like that way we can discuss, that might help us like kickstart our discussion on ways to participate, I guess what I'm saying.
Yes, I can have that, definitely.
Hmm.
Well, what day is today, the 6th?
I would like to add kind of a different spin on that. I would like to have an opportunity to see some of the people who have requested funding and see their program in action. Excuse me. And I don't know how to do that effectively, or if there's a way that we could do it as a couple of us going out and just visiting the facility, the programs. But I think it would help us to make better decisions in the future.
Yeah, and that might be one of the things that we add to our agenda of potential community involvement. It's
Like
like,
a site tour.
yeah, like a site tour.
We could potentially explore posting doing a remote meeting and a site tour and having that be the meeting.
Yeah.
Is actually it would be posted and then we can do that, right?
So I think we'll come back with some
explore.
ideas.
I mean,
But one thing we did hear from the city council was that they also
Would like
wanted
to.
more information. And so this could be a great way that we could think about how can we couple this? I know, you know, Michelle's working through, you know, the articles that we saw in the Lacey Weekly and is gonna be doing some site visits here, you know, in the next coming months. And then also, you know, potentially putting together some other materials like short videos on some of the things that are going on. So we'll think about it and come back with some thoughts and ideas. next
Yeah, we
meeting.
definitely want to show also the council that we're super engaged in looking to expand our engagement as well. So,
The road show.
yeah, let's go on tour.
Got the t-shirt.
Well, do we have any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion at this time? All right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 6:32. That's the Human Services Commission for Thursday, November 6th, 2025.